I want you to get together.
This one's kind of rolling off the back of the recent Truth or Therapy session, where I kind of did a bit of a last minute discussion of a video that someone sent to me in the Telegram talking about this concept called Mall World, and I took it personally. If you couldn't tell, I took it very personally because I myself am or at least used to be a frequent visitor to this mall world, and I think something that needed to be made clear, which perhaps I didn't make very clear at the beginning of the video, because I made a clip from the live show and released it yesterday with a few images to kind of back up what we were talking about. And that went viral. It's almost on 20,000 views in less than 27 hours. I think it's like 18,000 views right now. So it's only been like one day. And it seems to have struck a nerve with a lot of people. Like, they really are like, it speaks to them in a big way. And I can get it because, again, it spoke to me in a big way. And the name Mole World is a little bit, I don't know, wrong in a sense. I think that's just like the catch-all mimetic language that was used, which can relate to people very easily because everyone knows what a mall is and the concept of a multi-shopped environment or an environment that has many different things within it, shall we say, like a mall. But really, a mall world dream does not have to necessarily involve a mall, if you get what I'm saying. And I think that needed to be made clear, just in case people who are listening maybe think, well, I've never had one of those dreams. I don't dream about going to a mall. I think people need to know that that is not really what it means. It's just kind of a tag-on name people have given to it because it kind of explains the aesthetic of this type of experience. It's like being in a mall, shall we say, an endless array of new environments to explore or new shops to explore in a literal sense of a mall. And I just wanted to kind of cover it a bit more today because of the huge reaction it got from the video, and the comments are wild, but everyone's sharing all their dream experiences. The engagement is huge because it makes people want to talk and say, I've been there. This is my version of it. And the patterns are unbelievable. Like, it's pretty much this. Everyone's had the same experience and the same dream over and over and over again. You got the occasional people in there saying, yeah, this is just the brain processing places you've been, and it's like, people who have had a mall dream were like, no, it's not. No, it is. We know it's not that. You know what I'm saying? Like, forget those people who want to just palm this off as just basic, trivial human science biology. It's just dream stuff. It's just brain stuff. It's just signals. It's nothing important. It's kind of, well, that's spoken like somebody who's never experienced the mall world for themselves, because it's intense when you actually go there, and you do leave with this profound sense, don't you? Like, I didn't come up with that. That wasn't my brain. That wasn't my mind processing information. I don't know where that came from, but I didn't make that up. And her conclusion, the video I showed of the lady kind of discussing this concept and naming it, her conclusion is that, well, this is a bad place. This is a spiritual firewall that was created and projected by demons in our dream state to keep us distracted. It's to tantalize our senses and keep us moving from one thing to another continuously, aimlessly searching for things that are impossible to find in more world, because it's so much going on at once. You don't have time to think when you're there, and you're kind of swayed and whim to the dream, and the narrative that you're creating in this more world, that it stops you from being able to hear God's voice, basically. It's not like God couldn't break through, don't get me wrong. Like, he has all authority and power in that situation, but it makes you not bother to listen. That's what we're trying to say here, because you're too distracted by the mall world that's been projected by the demons. So that's her interpretation of it. And she used language like it's a layer of programming, and I think the language is a little bit, but me personally, I think it's lacking to say it's just like a program within a program. I And I'm not 100% sure it is like a demonic projection necessarily to distract us. Someone in the comments did make an interesting idea that they think it's like the first layer of hell, like a Dante's Inferno style. It's the Duats as described in Egyptian mythology. You know, it's this place where the dead reside to go and get judged, but aren't necessarily being tortured. It's purgatory from Dante's Inferno, first level, you know. It's this place where people go when they die who didn't know or accept Christ, but weren't like evil or bad necessarily, or, you know, it's a place of no joy and no happiness or something. But I don't know if that interpretation is true either, because it seems like you can experience all the emotions there. Definitely from my experience too. And it's something I think maybe warrants just a bit more thinking about. Like, what could it actually be? Is the more world itself a message from God? Is it a profound experience to show that there are other worlds that just beyond what you perceive, to make us kind of have that mindset that there is more to those who have these experiences in a way? I don't know. Probably not. That's probably a bit of a far stretch. But the experience in the dream is pretty intense. That's the only way I can describe it. You leave the dream tired. That's something I failed to mention in my own experience when explaining it. Like, when you leave the more world and you've had a full night of dreaming in that space, I feel like I've ran a marathon at the end of it. I feel like I am not rested at all. I feel like I'm exhausted, mentally exhausted. Maybe a little bit physically when you first wake up, but your body catches up to your mind and you realize you are rested, you know, but mentally you're just so tired. You're done, you know, you're absolutely done. Because it exerted everything you had to get through the experience. Like, it really does. It's a visceral thing. It's like it was as real as anything else when you were there. And someone left an interesting comment I want to share with you guys. I'm going to quickly just get up here before I share the screen. So first of all, they quote 16 minutes 16 into the video, and it's me. It's quoting me, basically. So, quote, "She only started to get these demonic dreams and attacks from entities when she was being saved or going through the getting saved process." End quote. And then he quotes me again, "Accepting Jesus into your life." End quote. And this is their take on what I said. Possible plot twist: getting saved is actually ritual permission for demons to come and play with you and do whatever they like to you. Why is it only Christians suffer demonic attack and possession? Why do demons not go after non-Christians, since they are arguably vastly far easier to access, torment, manipulate, and drink deeply from? And that's a good question. I actually said, good question. I'll answer this on tonight's live show. That was my response. Because it is, and from an outsider, from the Christian perspective, it seems odd. Like, well, why is it always Christians that have to deal with demons and no one else seems to know about them or do anything or have to deal with them, or it's not really a problem? And I would say, well, first of all, that's not true. That's just because you said that's the case doesn't mean that's the case. I've argued a lot, that every single human that's ever existed has experienced the demonic. All of them. There isn't a human that's alive on this earth that has not in some way come into contact with the spiritual realm and the demons and the entities on the other side in one major or minor way or another. They have definitely done it. They have. And the only difference is they just don't want to talk about it. They're scared to tell people because they fear what people will think of them. I think that's what's really going on. Because there's no way you can exist on this earth, which is infested with the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, which we call unclean spirits or demons today, and not bump into them at some point or the other. You are inevitably going to, if you haven't already. We share the space with them. They're just in the spiritual aspect of the physical realm, and we primarily exist in the physical aspect of the spiritual and physical realm. It's one realm. There's no distinction between the two things. It's one side of the two sides of the same coin. It's the warp and the woof of reality. The spiritual does not exist without the physical realm, and the physical realm does not exist without the spiritual realm. So they are the same thing. In a similar way, you could talk about like flowers and bees. Flowers wouldn't exist if there weren't bees around to pollinate them. And bees wouldn't exist if there weren't flowers around for them to be pollinating with. It's like a flower and a bee seem separate to us, but one will not exist without the other, and in a way, that's how the spirit world and the physical world kind of exists. That's just the dualistic nature of creation, shall we say. And that's the design that the creator gave to creation. God gave to creation, the Father in heaven, whose son is Jesus Christ. Just to make that very clear who I'm talking about here. I'm not getting all new age on you, but the creation itself has that nature to it. And people who live are in touch with the spiritual realm, whether they know it or not. Okay, so I think everyone encounters demons eventually. They do. And they just don't want to talk about it. So that first assumption that, why do demons only come after Christians? I think is actually just a false foundational take. It's a weak take. I don't think that's true whatsoever. But let's just humor your idea in that it does seem to Christians who talk about it more. I agree. Why are they always the ones that have all these crazy demonic attacks? Well, it's usually because the demonic attacks made them realize the truth in Jesus Christ, and they were saved and born again because of the demonic attacks. Yeah, I think maybe you were putting the horse before the cart, saying, no, they become Christian, then they get attacked. It's not like that. Usually, you're listening to Christians talking about when they used to be attacked before they were saved. That's more often the stories I hear. That's my story, But my story was when I was coming to Christ for the first time, that's when the spiritual attacks ramp up. And I think this is something many Christians can attest to throughout their own born-again journeys. Maybe not those who were perhaps born into the church and raised in churches. They probably may not deal with this. But in many ways, there's arguments to be made that many people in the churches may not actually be as spiritually protected as they think they are as well in many ways. And maybe opening up and giving permissions and contracts to demons to access them in ways where they didn't realize they were making those permissions, So there is that as well. And we'll get into the contract aspect of all this later on, but let's just circle back here and talk about, is it just Christians who get demonically attacked, and why not the atheists? Why do they not seem to have any issues with this? And I would say that actually isn't as crazy sounding as you're making it out to be. In fact, that's exactly how it would go if demons did exist. Because demons, you see, they want to have a body. They used to be kings and rulers on the earth, giant ones at that, who subjugated humanity and were considered gods among men. Now they're nothing. Now they're just how would you describe it? A ghost in a machine. Like, they have no body. They hunger and they thirst and they want to exert their will, but they can't because they haven't got a body to, so they're stuck on Earth with no body and no ability to influence or partake in anything or do anything. Yeah, they still have these desires, and they're kind of like blending into each other all the time because there's no distinction between the sense of self anymore as they kind of spirit through the creation, They're desperate to get into a body for just some peace of mind. And anybody who's been to the DMT realm knows you don't want to spend eternity there. Count yourself lucky you get to come back after 15 minutes, But for these entities who were stuck there forever, it's practically torture and hell for them. They're going insane, delusional, in fact, So they want to get into a body, your body. And the optimal situation for a demon desperate to dwell in a body to have some peace of mind away from the chaos of the DMT realm, the spirit realm, and to be able to feel and taste and smell and see things once again through your body. Well, ideally, they don't want you to know they're there. Because as soon as you realize you've got a parasite living within you, well, there's only one thing to do when you've got parasites. It's time for a cleanse. And the only cure for demons is Jesus Christ. So, ideally, A demon who wants to exert influence and its will onto a person to get them to do things that the demon wants it to do so it can satiate its desires would be that the vessel it is parasitically feeding off of doesn't know that it's there. So it does it slowly, carefully, strategically, and would probably influence the person as much as it possibly could to avoid Christianity. Because as soon as you realize what Christianity is and what Christ did, cast demons out of people, and you realize you've got a demon in you, well, that demon's days are numbered and it knows it. So it would rather you'd never figured that out, and it would rather keep a low profile around those who are not saved. So those who suddenly are becoming saved perhaps haven't fully given up themselves to Jesus yet, but at the same time are reading the Bible, reading the Word, studying, finding out the truth, praying to God, trying their best to kind of understand God and build that relationship, you know. Well, the demon's in panic mode by that point. And I think demons are selfish, prideful, bitter, full of hubris and hatred towards humanity. They kind of like their pleasures. They don't really want to give you up because you're useful to them and you've been feeding them like a good person for decades, perhaps, you know. You've been a good little addict for them, partaking in that heroin or cannabis or nicotine or alcohol or sex or pornography or name your vice or stupid thing that you're addicted to. The demon's been loving that, and you've been serving them well and feeding their desires so well for so many years. And then you had to go and get Christianity, didn't you? You had to go and pick up that damn book. And now you're going to eventually get rid of me. You're going to get filled with the Holy Spirit, and I'm going to get kicked out. So in that period, you'll tend to find that's when demonic attacks happen. That's when people get attacked by the demons. That's when that thing starts to happen that everyone will inevitably experience at some point in their life, if they haven't already. That's when they start to lash out, kick and scream and panic. And I think the demon's mentality is, well, if I can't have you, nobody can. And that's when they try and kill you. That's when they get all the buddies to gang up on you. That's when they get all the demonically oppressed people that they're already in around you in your life to start ruining your life. That's when things start going downhill for you drastically. And that's usually when they try and kill you. Or make you kill yourself, whatever, they don't care. You're no longer useful to them, and they're certainly not going to let you stick around long enough to be useful to Jesus and to further the kingdom of heaven. So that's why Christians are primarily heavily demonically attacked. And then if it's too late and you realize your authority, you called on Jesus at the moments they tried to kill you, and you cast them out in your authority that you have over them now, thanks to Jesus Christ's sacrifice on the cross and the authority given to you through him, by him, well, then you're free. You're filled with the Holy Spirit. You can't be possessed anymore. However, you can still be oppressed by demons. They're still around. They're just not in your body anymore. So what do they do? Well, there's plenty of agents in the Matrix around you, plenty of Agent Smiths who have not done any work to deal with their demons, spiritually speaking, from a biblical Christian standpoint, and entered the Holy Spirit, dwell in their vessel and cast out these demons. So they're in full control and influenced by the demonic energies within them, and that's when the demons will attack you via other means. They'll send people into your life to ruin your life. And that person will be completely ignorant that they're even coming into your life to ruin your life, because that's just how it works. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood. We wrestle against principalities, against spiritual wickedness in high places. We need to be wise to the weapons used against us so we can fully arm ourselves. And the only way to protect yourself is to put on the full armor of God. The full armor of God. And a lot of people don't know that. They don't think about this. And a lot of people think, oh, Christianity, here we go. What a lot of just nonsense, you know. Abrahamic, desert-dwelling religion that has no basis on reality today. That means nothing to me whatsoever. And yeah, you know, it can seem like that for a long time until you're attacked by demons. And then calling on the name of Jesus Christ makes it stop, and your life significantly gets better after the fact. That can be pretty convincing. Very convincing. Convinced me. And it's never failed me since. And things have drastically got better since giving myself over to Christ and building a real relationship with the Father through him. So I would recommend it. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Get some Jesus in your life. And in terms of this whole more world situation, circling back, this more world discussion and me bringing my faith up clearly made this person ask this question and want to understand, like, oh, why? Surely demons would appear themselves to those who are not believers. It would be easier, right? And it's kind of like, well, I would say they do. They do in many ways. They ruin people's lives. People who don't have Jesus in their life, who are open to parasitical demonic infestation, don't always have the best life. They don't. They suffer greatly. Their sins have consequences. Drastic, horrible consequences that they will have to pay for in the physical life and in the next life, And yeah, mess around, find out is a situation, isn't it? You play with fire, you get burned. And I would imagine people who are fully given over to their vices and are really, really, really messed up, they're going to suffer greatly at the hands of demons. They just don't know it. They don't realize that that's what's going on. They don't realize they're being influenced. They think their thoughts are their own half the time, and sometimes they are. People can just still do bad things. I'm not absolving humanity of sinful behavior. The majority of the time, the demons are just trying to convince the person to make the bad choice that they probably already wanted to make to begin with. They're just making it easier, That's kind of the issue, isn't it? That's spiritual warfare at its finest. And I think this whole more world situation has touched on a nerve. I think it's really got to the core of a problem that people are experiencing. And dreams are personal. Dreams are like a really personal thing, aren't they? But suddenly when you realize everyone's dreaming of the same thing, it makes it less personal. And you realize this is something bigger. Something weird's going on. Things aren't as they seem. So I think these kind of experiences and these discussions at least open people's eyes up to the idea that maybe there is something spiritual going on here. And if they're going to start asking spiritual questions and getting into spiritual concepts, I don't want them to waste their time. Personally, I would like them to just cut to the chase and get to the truth straight away. And that is the biblical perspective. That is the truth in Jesus Christ. That I'm not telling you churchianity. There's so much corruption in those institutions. It's unbelievable. No, you don't need to go join a 501c3 or some kind of cult. You just need to have a personal relationship with the Son of God. And you can do that just by praying to him and talking to him and asking for it. And you will receive. And that's all you need to do. I'm not telling you to sign up to anything. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a church or anything like that. I don't think you need any of that. I think you just need to read the word is a good way. Start with the one you can understand the most before you get into all the which version should I read stuff. Just read the word. I don't care which one. No matter which version you read, you'll find Jesus in there. And then start building a real relationship with him, and then you'll realize spiritual warfare is very real, and that's when the demons will come. So be ready for that. Be ready for that. And no spiritual firewall in your dreams will ever hold up. In terms of more world dreams for me today, I don't have them very frequently or often at all anymore like I used to. My dreams now are far more profound, shall we say. I'm not distracted in them. I'm clear. And there's a message I need to learn in every dream, and I try my best to decipher and figure out that message. I'm not chasing things or being chased anymore, like in these more world dreams often were. I'm not lost. I'm foundationally grounded in my dreams now, more so. But when I was going through the transitional period of being saved, and before that, I was in this place all the time. I think symbolically, even metaphysically, there's something about that. I'm no longer wasting my time running around or focusing on the trivial nature of a mall or a place that is tantalizing my senses, but rather I am having real, true experiences in my dreams that I know I'm going to grow from, and that a message is trying to be given to me or a lesson is trying to be taught to me in some way. And I am in more ways in control than I used to be. So I think being saved is not giving permission to demons to mess with you. Not even a little bit. I think when you are becoming saved or get saved, demons just lash out. And maybe if you want to interpret that as now they have permission to mess with you, I guess you could, but that's not what's happening. Because there comes a point where it stops. And there comes a point where you change. You drastically change who you are as a person. And you no longer have the desires or the cravings or the needs or wants to do those things you used to do, because maybe it wasn't you who actually wanted to do them. And now maybe you finally are as a child of God, made in his image, as you were supposed to be in the beginning, living as you were intended to be, as he created you to be, isn't a drug addict, porn addicted, junk food eating, TV obsessed, narcissistic, psychopathic egomaniac. Maybe that's not who you really were. And maybe those things you thought you were beholden to, you weren't. And when you're born again, you're made new, as you should be, as God intended you to be when he knew you before he sent you into the earth. And he has a plan for you, a life that you want to live, the perfect life, already mapped out. And we tend to want to go our own way, don't we? And we think we know best. And when we go out and do that, we end up ruining everything and living in misery and squalor, and everything gets worse drastically. But when you step into the path laid out for you by God, it's the life you've always wanted. It's everything. He knows you. He knows who you are and what you want and what you need to have a fruitful existence here. And he wants to give it to you. It's your inheritance. Take it as a member of his kingdom. And I can attest that since being born again, since 2014, my life has drastically improved. I am not the same person I used to be before then. And I didn't work to get like that. No, I put some effort in, don't get me wrong. I quit the cannabis. I went through the withdrawal symptoms. I stopped all the drugs. I worked hard. I got a job. I built a family. I had children. I got married, and I did all the things I was supposed to do, you know, that actually brought joy and more abundance and growth into my life. I had the experiences. I've been through the trials and tribulations. Even right now, I'm still going through them and always learning and growing. But I have this peace and this knowing that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And God is looking after me every step of the way, and I don't have any greed or wants or envy or a list or hatred or unforgiveness or any of that stuff I used to have anymore. It's gone. And it brings you a peace, a real peace that you don't get until you have that transformative being saved moment. And I'd recommend 10 out of 10. I definitely recommend it. Like, if you haven't already, try it. Give it a go. You won't go back, that's for sure. So I hope that answers the question for the person who left that comment. I don't know if they're here or not. I have no idea. Maybe they'll never see this, but maybe you listening right now, maybe this is for you instead.
I want you to get together